Welcome to the Legacy of Tier podcast. This is your host, Jordan Shepard. And tonight with me, I have Michael.
Hi, everybody.
And our other hosts, we have Carrie.
Hello.
Nick.
Hey.
Nick.
And Chaz. Alrighty.
Yeah, I've given up. I'm Nick now.
Yeah, he is now Nick.
Price.
Alrighty. So tonight, I think we got quite a few topics to cover. Pretty broad night. We're gonna talk a little bit about Pagan Pride Day that we were at today. We had a booth set up there. That was a pretty good time.
Yeah.
We're gonna talk about some tattoos. We're gonna talk about some heathen household traditions, some altars, some basic stuff. And just whatever else comes up along the way, and any questions that get asked.
Are we going to talk about Freya tonight too?
Oh yes.
Oh yeah.
That will be brought up as well.
That's,
as long as
that's half the show right there.
A certain app and a certain people that are doing some sketchy things on said app.
Well, it's not just the app. We'll get into that later.
It's just a general thing. It's a weird thing. It's a thought thing.
Thought be gone.
Wow. Alrighty, so what topic do we want to start on tonight? How we going to do this? I guess I can do Pagan Pride Day first, since we've just experienced that. So we went out to Pagan Pride Day today in Virginia Beach Park.
Yes.
Yeah, it was a park in Virginia Beach. It was a pretty good time.
Yep.
The general consensus was we were one of I think we were the best looking heathen group there, really.
Yeah, there were 3 heathen groups, including us, and we were by far the most busy and well set up.
Oh yeah, we had people constantly talking to us and asking questions. We really put the podcast out there, so we got a lot of good advertising for that. So we don't have to worry about putting too much advertising for that anymore, because I'm sure we're gonna get quite a few listeners from that tonight, or at least views on the video after we post it. So that's cool. Yeah, it was a pretty good time. The only thing that I didn't like, there was one woman that asked us about the name Warfighter, how if it was too masculine, if we could have women in the tribe, and she was being a little aggressive with her questioning, really, and I wasn't very fond of that. She asked us also if we were racist, which was kind of uncomfortable.
You did tell her that the founder is a female, right?
Yeah, we explained the founder was a female, and she was like, oh. And me and Ryan explained that women can be warfighters too, and we're not sure why she's asking that, considering Drew and Nicole were sitting right behind us. I literally turned around and looked at them, and I was like, no, we have women. I was like, they're right there. But yeah, that was an uncomfortable situation. That was pretty much the only one, really. Everything else was just people just talking to us. It was really cool. We met a lot of vets out there, a lot of active duty. So that was pretty exciting to meet more of the veteran community. That was just, a lot of them were just looking too, so it was really exciting to actually and give them some information on us and really get them looking towards us. So that was fun.
Well, I mean, I'll provide some clarity, right? Because I'm the one that came up with the tribal name here. All right. When I was in the Air Force, and I was a support role. When I say warfighter tribe, I'm encompassing the warfighter community. So you don't have to be the ground pounding door kickers, right? This also includes people in support roles too. Your logistics troops, your medics, and so forth and so forth. It's just, I say warfighter because we are our own culture. We are the warfighter culture. We have our own traditions. We have our own mannerisms. It's like we have our own brotherhood. So that kind of distinguishes that we are different from the rest of the heathen community. Does that make sense?
Yeah, we explain that to an extent. We explain that it's EMS and basically people who are willing to get out there and sacrifice for their community, essentially, as well, is what it represented. Hence tier being in the name, and him being our main focus.
Well, and it's not just military people, and this goes back to first responders too, especially law enforcement. They have their own warfare that they are dealing with on a day-to-day basis.
That's no joke.
Going up against gangs, cartels, and stuff like that. And I do believe that our first responders, the medics and the firefighters, they absolutely do fit into that role of our community as well. Because I mean, I've heard stories of some of my clients that have come to me are medics in places like Chicago. They would show up on a 911 call, they're EMTs, and they would have people shooting at them when they're trying to get people rescued. So, I think that absolutely does fit into the scope of what we are, the community we are trying to reach here.
Mm. Yeah,
And yeah,
that definitely covers it really well.
and I've had that type of mentality hit up the inbox before. It wouldn't surprise me if that's the woman in question. Um, and no offense to her, it's just, I think that like there comes a time when you just have to take the politics and the political uh, smoke screen that everybody seems to be looking through these days and put it aside and just understand that not everybody out there is a misogynist. Not everybody out there is a sexist or a racist or whatever. So to sit there and question us if we're a white supremacist group, like, come on, come on.
Yeah, Ryan brought up a good point. He was like, are you really asking that to military people? Because I mean, as a military community, we work with everyone, like everyone from around the country, every creed, class, everyone, like everyone is a part of this brotherhood, and we're all out here busting our asses. Like we don't discriminate. It's ridiculous.
No, we don't. And the question of folkish heathenry had come up yet again
Mm-hmm.
recently, and and this is my explanation to people. It's like folkish heathenry and all out racism, are two completely different things. You can have your folkish beliefs within your religion. It's how you treat people outside of your religion that makes the difference.
Most definitely. Alrighty, so moving on from Pagan Pride Day, which is pretty awesome overall. Had a great time.
I'm so happy you guys went, and thank you for representing us.
Oh, you're welcome.
I'm gonna see if I can get some like certificates or something together, here in the near future, so I can present to people who've been kind of really working their butts off for the tribe, especially the Varnar have really been stepping up, and I'm very proud. I'm very happy.
Oh, thank you.
And I have a cat that just literally jumped out of nowhere in this closet. She's been waiting to ambush me.
She's a samurai.
I wanted to say something real quick about the whole Pagan Pride Day thing. There was a lot of different pagan groups, different denominations, if you will, and everybody was incredibly well accepting of everybody else's stuff. We actually set through. They were druids, right?
Yeah, it was druids.
There was a Celtic druid group that did their ritual, and it was really cool to see. It wasn't our thing, but yeah, it was a really cool event.
Mm.
So
it was definitely interesting to see all the different pagan cultures coming together.
I'm glad to see that the pagan cultures and the pagan groups are starting to grow and flourish again, especially in Hampton Roads. I know years ago there were like so many of them. And this is when I used to be Wiccan. Like there was like a Wiccan group or a pagan group like at every witch turn, and then there used to be a pagan news syndicate. And then it's just like when I came back to the area, it's like they were all gone, or they went into hiding or something. It's like if you looked on the Witch's Voice like 15 years ago, you would have all these pages just for Hampton Roads. And then like just out of curiosity checking it out when I got back to the States, it was like chopped down to like less than half of that. I'm like, whoa, where did it go? But now I'm starting to see all these groups pop up again, which I'm happy. I'm really happy. There needs to be a diverse sea of pagan groups, I believe, especially in the military community. So everybody has somewhere to go.
Yeah, most definitely.
So today was the last day of summer too.
Oh, that's true. We are now in fall,
Mm-hmm.
which
We sure are.
kind of brings up the topic of winter finding.
I know what the calendar says, but our leaves have been turning here for the last 3 weeks.
Oh,
Yeah, they started here too.
As it hasn't dropped below like 85 degrees here, so I can't really feel the fall coming in quite yet, unfortunately.
We've already got frost.
Same here. It's like people are still in the swimming pool and the leaves are changing. I'm like, I am not impressed.
We're frosting almost every night.
We gotta step up that fall.
I know.
Maybe
right?
if we all drink enough pumpkin spice, it'll happen.
Oh my god! I went and bought some pumpkin spice coffee creamer today.
Dude, that stuff's good. I'm not gonna lie, pumpkin spice is pretty delicious. I actually have a pumpkin spice candle.
My little man has an obsession with the pumpkin yogurt. That's
I've
like one of the only
yogurt.
foods he eats.
That sounds fantastic, though.
I had a pumpkin spice candle, and the cat tried to eat it.
I don't blame it.
I
don't blame it at all.
Eat the candle with a spoon.
Yeah, she was just like, trying to like lick it and stuff. I'm like, what are you doing?
Pumpkin's really good for cats. When you get your pumpkin this year and you carve it, pull some of the guts out, and let the cat have at it. She'll be in love.
Well, she's not in love right now because she's trying to bite my face off.
Because she loves you.
Yeah, a little closet ninja. But like, so what kind of traditions do you guys have? I know that's something we wanted to talk about tonight.
Oh yeah, definitely. I want to cover traditions in like heathen households. There's a lot of tradition when it comes to heathenry that has been passed down, like orally, and just tradition wise. Like the tradition of gift giving is one really big one, and it's basically like when you it's even mentioned in the Havamal. Like when you go to someone's house, you bring a gift, and they in return gift you something, whether it be like a stay in their house or a fresh meal and some mead. It's like basically when you give, you're also supposed to receive, and when you receive, you're also supposed to give back. It's just a cycle of gift giving that was basically meant to build the community, and it's even shown in like today. It's like, hey, you want to come help me move? And they're like, yeah, man, I'll come help you. What do I get? You're gonna give them pizza and beer. It's a cycle of gift giving. It's been going on for such a long time. It's just become a normal thing.
Oh yeah, it's a very European thing.
Oh yeah.
Or even you get invited to dinner and you bring a bottle of wine.
Yeah.
I got a funny story about that if you don't mind me.
Go for it.
In German, the word gift means poison.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I had been in country for 3 weeks, I think, and I had no idea about my German. My German class hadn't started yet, and we got assigned these local host countries, and I was taught well by my grandmother, who would have kicked me in the butt if I didn't. So I went out and bought a bottle of wine at the class 6. And I went up to the door and I knocked on the door and I said, das ist für du. Here, this is for you. Das ist eine Gift. And she stared at me with her jaw open and slammed the door in my face. I didn't know that I insulted her and said I was going to poison her.
Oh my God.
It's like instead of here's a bottle of wine, it's like here's a bottle of poison, enjoy.
Yeah.
I feel like that came off a tad bit wrong.
It did.
That came out as goth as all hell.
Oh my God.
I was trying, I was trying to do the right thing.
Always try so hard. But in the end, you threaten to poison her.
Things not to do.
Things not to do. Don't threaten to poison.
Don't threaten to poison.
Your hosts. Poor choice.
Well, we really, like in our household, we really don't have like any major traditions as far as like, fall feast or whatever right now. I mean, we have such a small space, but what we do though is we do cleaning from top to bottom. Every major holiday, like week for Ostara, and then we do it now, and then like we just clean the entire house, and then we just this time of year we like boiling some cinnamon sticks with some cloves, just in a pot of water, just to let the vapors just kind of go through the house, and it kind of just puts like some nice smell in the air, and doesn't smell like chemicals, um, like you
Carrie,
would with carpet freshener and stuff. What?
you should try and add some star anise to that.
Really?
Yeah. Do you not like star anise?
I never. Well, I mean, yes and no. I just never thought about adding it to our little
It gives
fall
an
time.
amazing smell. Sorry, I'm off point. I apologize.
Well, what I also do is I do cinnamon sticks, orange peels, and some cloves, and just
Oh,
let them boil, and it smells amazing. And it, like I said, it doesn't have like a heavy chemical smell like a lot of the air fresheners do. Mhm.
Sounds like a pretty good cleaning tip. I'll have to try that. But
Yeah, it's amazing.
another thing is like homebrewing mead as well has been a pretty big tradition. Just different types. I think we were actually talking about a lot of mead brewing today, and it's still like really big in the heathen community, like self-making mead, just for like offerings and just regular drinking, and for like blots and stuff.
Didn't
So,
we entertain the idea of pumpkin spice mead?
we did. That is something that was brought up.
Pumpkin spice everything.
Pumpkin spice everything. We're gonna make pumpkin spice mead, and then we're gonna make pumpkin spice blacksmithing. We're gonna make axes.
if we're not
Pumpkin
careful,
spice
pumpkin
everything.
spice.
Out of pumpkin spice.
we gotta be careful, or we can become known as the basic tribe.
The basic.
Oh my god.
The pumpkin spice tribe.
Yeah, our flag is gonna say just can't even.
Yes.
You said pumpkin spice blacksmithing. All I can think of is like, why does the hammer taste like pumpkin spice, and then you just look like Miley's.
Miley Cyrus and Wrecking Ball. Oh man.
Oh god. My axe tastes like pumpkin.
Oh my
Wow, this conversation went south.
god.
Had to bring up Miley Cyrus.
Sorry.
We're going downhill.
I'm gonna try and steer this back.
Yeah. Back to the traditions, please.
There's a tradition I have here, and I know it's a little morose, but somehow my family, we tend to lose a lot of people, and we have this thing where we make a disc out of clay, and we write their name in it and write a little message about them, something short, 2-3 words, and on the back, impression of whatever, or we'll leave it blank, doesn't matter. And when we light our fire, for memorial that we let burn for 24 hours, we put it on top of a piece of metal that we suspend over the top, and it cooks it and it hardens. We keep those things in a box and in the house because, our ancestors are one of the big things that make us who we are.
Mm-hmm.
So it's good to keep track and have a record of them.
Oh, definitely. That's a
I have
really
something.
Cool tradition.
I have something to add to that. This time, I used to work for a funeral home for a while, and one of the biggest things that always came up was like this time of year. It's like end of summer into fall and winter. It's like people just start passing away in numbers. And we've noticed that like our highest funeral counts were in the fall and early winter. So with that said, I think that it is a very good time to recognize those that have passed on, and those that are might be very ill and elderly, to spend that extra time with them, because you never know like when it's their season. And that's what my grandma used to say, you never know when it's their season. And I think it's important to I'm big. If I had the room, I would have an ancestral altar in this house or this apartment, and that is something I'm going to work towards, especially this time of year.
Yeah, we're actually putting ours back together right now because when we moved, we still have it packed up. And we were slowly moving the altars around and making enough space for them all. So we're doing an ancestral altar, and we're setting up the white offer as well for the house whites and the land whites. So that'll be great. that kind of brings me into altars. But in traditions, real quick, one thing we do around the house is we try to keep the altars. We usually have a bowl or a cup on each one, and we try to keep some sort of beverage for each god we have an altar for, and for the ancestors and whites as well. You know, like we'll put like mead or red wine in Odin's glass, and Thor will have either a beer, like a dark beer, or a mead, and Freya will usually do like water or mead, and for the whites obviously milk, basically because they like milk. But that kind of brings us into altars since we're bringing it up and stuff. Um, what are some of the things you guys like to put on the altars, and what kind of altars do you guys have?
We have a small one.
Mhm.
I'm actually going to make room in the bedroom for one, but we have a couple of god statues, and we have an offering bowl, our horn. Um, the kids like to put like they like to collect pretty rocks and stones and stuff and put them on the altar
Oh yeah.
at Freyr and Freya's feet. I don't know why. They have to make like little clay things and put them up there too. So
Mhm.
we have all kinds of stuff up there. Um, but we don't have a lot of room, like I said, and you don't need the expensive god statues either.
Oh, definitely not.
No, you can make like you can get like clay, like even if it's polymer clay or even air dry clay, and you can just make like something, even with like runes on it to represent the gods to put on your altar.
Mhm.
There's also different kinds of arts and crafts that you can find on tutorials how to do on like YouTube to put images of the gods onto different things. Candles, for instance.
Mhm.
Um, there was also one project I saw. It's like little paper lanterns, and it had like the classical painting images of some of the gods on them. They looked really cool.
Oh, that's awesome.
I'll see if I can find that video and send it to you, Jordan.
All right, I'll
But
put it in the link.
yeah, I mean, so you could see some of these do-it-yourself stuff, and then you think, oh, that's just silly. But then if you think about it, like, well, what if I put an image of Odin on there? That would look pretty cool.
Mhm.
And just try it. And you can get supplies at like, the Dollar Tree. Um, you know, Michael's, they're kind of like pricey, but coupons and stuff.
Oh yeah, Michael's has a good sale going right now.
Yeah, absolutely. What's AC Moore? That's another one.
Oh,
They got a
AC Moore's
sale
good.
going on. But just, a lot of these places have these sales and coupons and stuff, and just go play with stuff. You can just make one, and if it's a complete disaster, scrap it. Like you can make a decent little um effigy or something for $10.
Oh
ten
yeah.
dollars. Yeah, very simple.
I'm I'm still working with my wife and I have this thing. We were both forced into a religion growing up, and you all know my story. And we refuse to force either one of our faiths on our children. So we tend to keep anything that is actual faith based to our. We don't put it out in front of the kids. I'm
Mhm.
still using my military travel altar. It's a small wooden box made out of rosewood. It's got Odin and Freya's faces carved into the lid. It's got some really intricate work on the sides, and I keep everything in it. It's in my room. It's there. It's for me. But like I said, we try. We don't want to force anything on our kids because it's our choice. She does the same stuff with her faith, and when it comes to Carrie knows what I do. When it comes to effigies, I'm a bit different. I I routinely make my offerings and my do my thing, and for each one I make, I actually, whether it be a god or an ancestor, I actually make a small figurine for whichever one I'm talking to, and I burn it with my offerings, and that's my way of going about doing things. I know it's different. I'm a solo practitioner. I had to find my own way. There was nobody around to help me out, and it's just the way it works for me. So
Mhm. Yeah, and that's another thing. Like Carrie basically said, you know, I gotta get expensive stuff. That's one thing like about our faith that's really awesome is that like the gods don't demand really any we give them anything for the most part. It's basically just like even the Hobmalt mentions like give what you can, but don't give too much to that. It would put you in a compromising situation. So I mean, it says that. So basically, like you can go outside and find things that you think they like black feathers or crow feathers or raven feathers for Odin if they're just out laying around. Just whatever you can find that represents them to you. Just like you can just put on an altar for them and like offer it to them. Like it doesn't have to be like gold coins and like anything crazy. Like just offer what you can or what you feel comfortable giving them, basically. Like, nothing has to be like insane.
No, not at all. Not at all.
It's the intent, not the price.
Exactly.
I am one of those people that, and I take a book from the Celts here, or a page from the Celtic book here. I do believe that, like the thinning of the veil theory,
Mm-hmm.
especially this time of year. So what we did was we made a bunch of took some polymer clay and we made some spirit warding bind runes, and we just kind of set them in the windowsills, um, just to kind of prevent uninvited visitors, especially with the industry that I work in.
Mm-hmm.
There's all kinds of stuff that's crossing over this time of year, so we try to make it a point to just kind of push out any uninvited, non-ancestral entities or whatever, especially living in an apartment.
Mm-hmm. I believe, like there's, yeah, bind runes work for that. Yeah, I was thinking something else, but I'm not 100% sure on it. So I think that yeah, there's aren't staves. You can use there's staves for that as well, aren't they? Like
Yeah,
yeah, yeah.
yeah, I got a few that I use. Yeah, and we got those going. We put them on the windowsills, and yep, hoping the cat doesn't run off with them.
the biggest threat is the cat at this point.
Yeah, she's been just taking stuff and hiding it in certain little corners of the house.
Oh, you gotta love that.
Whatever she can pick up, she'll just take. It's like, oh my god.
It's a
Mm-hmm.
cat thing.
I guess so. Yeah, I'm talking about you. She's looking at me like, what?
Oh,
So anybody else? Any of you guys got a dog?
oh yeah.
Okay, is my dog the only one that eats everything that I put out for the weights?
Oh, definitely not. Ours.
Okay.
We put out an offering for Lane Whites the other day, and she ended up eating it and drinking it.
All right.
Yep.
Yeah, our cat did that. We put a cut of meat out for the whites, and there she was chowing down.
Yeah, I mean they when animals eat it, it's a good thing because they're like caveats for the gods and the whites basically. So
Well, I know.
it's good.
'Cause my dog's a gluttonous pig, and
Other than the dogs gaining too much weight, don't put out too many offerings. That's for sure. I don't want them to get too big.
All the bacon.
All the bacon. Make sure to leave bacon offerings for your dogs. They love it.
Our cat eats ham. She likes ham. That's her thing.
Our cat doesn't like eating meat. It just licks it a few times and then slaps it on the floor and then leaves. He's he's interesting.
Oh my god. No, she
Weird
likes
cat.
ham.
So another thing I wanted to bring up about the altars is if you're like out and about out in nature, you hiking or something, or you're home and like you just want to go outside and do some work. You can always pile up some stones into an altar. There's I can't remember off the top of my head, but there's at one point in the Poetic Eddas where Freya brings up that someone I can't remember this because I've read it so long ago that someone piles up a heap of rocks for Freya as an altar, and it glistens red with blood from a sacrifice. Which brings up like if you want to do outdoor work and you don't have anything out there, you can heap rocks together as an altar to the gods. Like it's in the Poetic Edda.
I know people that use tree stumps.
That's actually a cool idea. I like that. I've
You
I've
know,
actually I've done the heaps of rocks thing before as well.
I've done the tree stump thing before.
Mhm.
I lived in a place where there's a tree stump, and I would have just a couple of rabbit pelts that I just kind of set up there, with, the horn or whatever. Pretty simple stuff. But even rabbit pelts, like, they're pretty cheap.
Oh yeah. We used to raise rabbits, so had a few. But I'd like let's talk a little bit about winter finding and like what that's all about and when it's all about. So that's coming up here real soon. Or it's isn't about to happen. So winter finding, isn't it it's the first full moon after the fall equinox? I know that. That's like the official start of winter's finding.
Yeah, that's pretty much. The moon is going to be full here in about like 2 days.
Mm-hmm. So we're about to kick that off. I know. I was actually reading up on winter's finding recently as well, and I know there's part in the Eddas where it was Sigvat, it was 11th century like skald monk. He's basically complaining about the hospitality of farmers because they were out doing blot like we do around that time, and winter's finding was a time to do blot, and apparently they did a lot to the Alfar, like the elves and the ancestors. So that's a time when they would mostly worship ancestors and apparently the elves as well, which I didn't know they did the elves around this time. And
it
usually,
would make sense.
Yeah, that's true. They're worshiping in unison a lot, but apparently there was a lot of like family worship at that time, so they were usually private blots just for the family, and they would go into their hof and basically have like a little temple set up at the time to do stuff just for their immediate like ancestors, which I found pretty neat.
Well, if you think about it, it makes sense. I mean, this time of year is what? There's really not much left to harvest, right? Maybe at the most, if you in a North American sense, like probably some pumpkins or some squash or something.
Yeah,
but there's really not much to harvest here. So
because corn's already finished.
Yeah, everything's done. So
yeah, sunflowers. Sorry, go ahead.
Sunflowers are pretty much done. The wheat.
Yeah.
I know some areas they're already pulling up their wheat.
So yeah, it's soy and beets.
It would make sense to like honor the ancestors and the elves and the whites, because the whites are tied to the land. You farm on that land. You don't want to piss them off. So at the end of the season, it makes sense to start, to thank them, and your ancestors, of course. So it's pretty much the death season, if you think about it.
Oh yeah, I think that's where the whole thinning of the veil came from as well. Like because it's like the most like it's the harder time. So it's like everyone is closer to death essentially. As I think where that really materialized.
Yeah, absolutely. A very interesting time of year.
Oh, most definitely. Sure. And then we got Yule shortly after, so.
It's when you do the most hunting.
Oh yes. Gotta keep that meat stocked so they could survive, because at that time they'd probably be running out, I'm sure, of their grain and whatever else they had stored up.
Yeah, more than likely. So, I don't know. I love this time of year.
Same. So
especially the days have gotten shorter.
Oh yeah, longer nights,
enjoy it.
More sleep.
I just know what's coming here. North Dakota sucks in the winter.
Has anybody else been like stupid tired? Like I've just been wanting. I know I've been sick, but I've been unusually just tired, and I always get that way this time of year.
It's actually a chemical shift in your brain. It's an actual scientific thing. It is something that happens in people. Scientists have now found that there is a gene in our body in which we used to hibernate. We haven't used it in a long, long time, but there's a chemical shift in our brains that actually make you tired and want to hibernate.
Ain't nobody got time to hibernate anymore.
Nope.
I wish.
I can find the time.
Yeah, no joke.
You're like, screw you guys. I am gonna go hibernate.
Just a week or
Yeah.
two.
You sort this stuff out, and I will see you in the spring.
Taking the winter off at work. I'm just gonna hibernate all winter. Just sleep. Just catch up on my sleep from working so damn much.
Yeah, I wish.
We're gonna run out of time. What else were we covering tonight?
I actually wanted to bring up kids in heathenry and just in general too, in today's parenting.
It's one of
Stuff
my
like
favorite
that.
topics.
Oh yes.
Yes, because me and you, Jordan, we started talking about this a few weeks ago.
Oh yeah. This went into a full-fledged rant on both ends.
Oh my God, yeah. Has anybody seen the app being advertised? What is it called? TikTok?
It went from
Is that what it's
Yeah.
called?
basically to TikTok. It got rebranded because it got
Oh,
so
God.
bad. I actually introduced Michael to that today. Like he was unaware of the absolute state of that app, and I introduced him to it. Michael, how did you enjoy it?
I've lost all faith in humanity.
Yeah, it's pretty bad. The app is honestly just like insane. It's I'm not sure why it exists at this point. It's gotten so bad. Like, and it's the amount of like underage girls dancing around half naked is absolutely ridiculous. It's honestly like I don't know how the
It's
app
pedal
even
candy.
exists. It is. It really is. Like that's the only thing I can really think that it's for at this point.
Yeah, and that is something that like heathen parents need to have these talks with their heathen daughters, especially. I mean, and this is why I kind of wanted to get into Freya a little bit too tonight. It's like, we're not, even though we're not growing up, or raising our kids with the Christian values of, that whole major conservative kind of way of you know carrying
It's bad.
ourselves.
It's
There's
bad and horrible, but
well, I mean, we have to teach our daughters to honor their bodies. I
yes.
mean, you can't use Freya as an excuse to be a hoe.
No.
You can't.
Yeah.
No.
The classic Freya meme. You can't slay 'em, lay 'em. That meme. We've talked about that as well offline.
Oh,
And
we
that's,
went on a big rant about
we did.
that.
That
I know.
meme
I was in
pisses
that
me
on
off
that.
so
That was
much.
fun.
Freya is not an excuse to be a hoe, ladies. Okay.
You need that on a T-shirt.
We need that on a T-shirt.
We need that on something because, like, and I have even in the past, I'm like, oh yeah, I consider myself, a Freya's woman, and then automatically, like, some people are like, oh yeah, you're a hoe. No.
Yeah, that's my fiance is a Freya's woman as well. She
That whole thing with the necklace and the dwarves. I mean,
yeah.
last time I read in any translation, Odin was pretty pissed about that.
I think
And
everyone
there
was a
was a
little bit upset
punishment
about that.
involved here. And this is stuff we need to teach our daughters, man. It's not like when we were growing up and they're trying to sell sex to kids. And I think that we need to kind of, keep an extra eye on some of the stuff that's popping up there aimed at teenagers. And that's just
MTV.
oh my God, that's cancer.
Michael's coughing in the background.
Oh, I know.
It's a weird cough.
That was a horrible
Cancer.
fake cough.
It's because you said MTV and you started dying of cancer.
Yeah, pretty much.
Has nothing to do with his cigarettes.
Nothing at all.
Oh, dang.
But am I right, or am I just going?
No,
No,
you're
you're
right.
totally
You're
right,
totally
Carrie.
right. Like, especially what really pisses me off is like people want to sit here and complain about like human trafficking and pedophilia, but they don't want to like limit their kids or have this talk with them. Like, you need to talk with your kids about like what they're putting online and
Yeah,
like what they're
absolutely.
doing with their bodies. Because people will see them and people will come after them. Like this is the age of information. Like, if you don't want something to be sought after, you don't put it out on the internet. Like
Yeah.
that is how this
Mhm.
goes now. Like I'm an IT in the military. Like we deal with this shit all the time, and we're constantly okay. So we did information assurance and stuff. Like we've looked at all this stuff. We've seen cases of child trafficking, and it's just disgusting. Like don't even let your kids get to the position that they can be targeted. Is basically what I'm saying. Like just don't let them get out there like that.
Here's the thing though. Okay, I'm a dad. I've got a daughter that's 4. Obviously, she's not on Facebook yet, obviously, but it's not just you raising your kid to not do stupid crap on the internet. It's society. They go
Oh,
to
it is.
school and they're learning just as much, if not more, from the kids around them as they're learning from
Mhm.
you. Their friends. Oh, it's okay to post stupid videos on YouTube of you dancing to God knows what. Well,
There's
it's not
entire-
okay because you're
there's-
not old enough to be doing that kind of stuff.
Well, the
There's
teachers
entire-
these days aren't helping. They're
No.
not.
That's what I'm trying
No,
to
they're
get at.
not.
There's school districts that are teaching kids to touch how to and when to and everything and about toys, and it's ridiculous.
They teach that in school?
Yes,
I
there
know.
are
I know. I've
schools
seen stuff like
teaching
that
it.
in Teen Vogue, that magazine.
It is
Didn't-
ridiculous.
Didn't Teen Vogue like do an expose on teenagers and anarchy? Recently?
Oh
And
yeah, that was insane.
didn't I kind of
I don't know what that
excuse
was
my
about.
language? But didn't I recently lose my shit on Facebook?
You did.
I think you did.
Like why are you bringing kids into politics that young? Like why are you gonna have them stress over stuff like that? Like why?
That's a long story that we don't want to have.
Yeah.
We don't want to get into that right now.
No, but what I want to keep on topic with is the school system. And I'm not going to mention names and I'm not going to mention school districts, but I know of one who has a teacher, okay, who hugs and kisses the students.
That's a little weird.
That's a good way to end
And-
up in a
that's-
shallow grave.
Yeah, that's a bit over the
And
line.
when people have confronted the principal about it, the excuse is, well, he's Cajun and that's his culture.
Bullshit.
No.
No, it's
That's-
not.
It doesn't matter what your culture is. Like you got to adapt to everyone else. This is not your little thing. Like this people kids. You gotta not be touching them so much. It's weird.
And it's like I know, and it's like, well, you can teach your kids. And this is what's getting hard. You teach your kids your morals and your values, and then you send them to school, and they're getting indoctrinated in this other stuff. And that's why I think it's very important to really stress, our tenets, our values, the stories of the gods, the ones that have lessons that they can apply to their preteen and teenage lives. And Freya is a very, very good example for teenage girls to follow.
Yeah,
It really
well-
teaches independent, like being a woman and being like you are a valuable person, like and being just strong in general. She's definitely a good
Exactly.
goddess.
Exactly. And, you don't have you don't have to put out to be sought after.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I think that's the important message too. Because the schools are not teaching that.
Yeah.
Like I went through sex ed, but it was more like a scare session, because
Yeah.
when we had like pregnant 14-year-olds, and it was like a scare session.
Oh my
It
goodness.
wasn't like this is how you have sex and toys, and no, this is hey, this is what herpes looks like.
Oh my
Okay.
goodness.
Have you guys
If you
ever
look at a
seen
penis,
the movie
you're
Mean
gonna
Girls?
get AIDS.
Have you ever seen
Yes.
the movie Mean Girls? Okay.
Yes.
I grew up going to parochial school, and it was just like that. If you have sex, you will get pregnant and you will die. If you have
Oh
sex,
my god.
You will get herpes and you will die. If you have-
Jeez. Yeah, I mean, there's a fine line between educating people and just going too far with it. Well, I think when I was in sex ed, because I'm 21, so I've gone through relatively recently, but it was when I was in doc in the Navy. Yeah, that was another sex ed class, but that was just terrifying because
You had to go
they were
through
screaming
sex
it
ed
at
in
you.
Navy?
Oh my god.
Basically now, yeah. But
That's hilarious.
it was pretty funny. But basically high school for me, it was informative because like this is how you get pregnant. Here's your options for protection. Make sure you do that because you don't want to be pregnant as a teenager because it'll cause problems.
Mhm.
And I mean that was informative, but like it feels like they're just kind of going like further out there nowadays, reaching.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know
Right.
why they
It's
would
getting
do
to where
that.
parents have no power or say
Yeah.
so in the morals and values that are taught to kids. And in a lot of places, you can't even opt your kid out of sex ed anymore.
Another
Yeah.
issue I have is parents being buddy buddy with their kids, because when you're buddy buddy, they don't take you serious when you talk to them.
Yeah.
There's a balance you have to achieve.
No, but for real, beat your kids.
What?
I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. Don't take that seriously.
Wow.
I'd like to point
This
out
is
for
the
our
80s.
listeners, the
We've
statements and opinions
evolved.
of the people talking on here are not necessarily those opinions of the tribe. Thank you.
It is not the
We're
80s.
not-
We've evolved.
And we're not making light of child abuse.
No,
No,
we are
not at
not.
all.
No, we are not. That was
That's why my son
sarcasm.
has been disowned because of that crap. So,
Mm.
so.
Because you beat him?
No,
No,
no, probably because he was
No,
being
he,
a little bit too
he
rough.
was beating the crap out of my daughter.
Oh, damn.
And the
Oh.
police, because he was a minor, the police would not step in. They refused to say that he was a caretaker, even though he was babysitting. He was 17, getting paid to babysit. They refused to call him a caretaker.
What?
They would not press charges.
That's insane.
So he's been disowned.
That's nuts. That is nuts.
That is, at 17, you're pretty much an adult. I mean, come on. You can make good
My
choices
first wife
at 17.
was pregnant when I was 17.
Damn.
So,
Wow.
yeah. That's what happens, when you get brought up sheltered Catholic. Nobody tells you anything. You're 17 with a girlfriend that's pregnant, and you get married the day you turn 18 so that you can do the right thing. And you ship off to boot camp, and she drops your kid off at your parents' house and runs down south and screws everything with two legs all the way back up to North Dakota.
I've heard that happen quite a few times in the military.
Yep.
No comment.
Oh my goodness.
So you were one of them, huh?
No.
Were you there too?
No.
I'm sorry.
Wow.
Yeah, I
I
feel
don't
like
even know
everyone in the
what to say to
military
that.
feels
No,
something like that.
that was not directed at you, Nate.
No, I know. And then my second wife, I shipped off to Iraq, and she did the same thing in Germany.
We're into second wives. This is you can tell this is a military podcast.
This is why I'm never getting married again.
And my third wife,
Now you're starting to sound like King Henry VIII over here.
And to my 21st wife, listen
my third
here.
wife, I went to a funeral in North Dakota. She took
3.0.
literally half. She took everything, like half of everything. She took the box spring, but not the mattress.
And this
took the
really
lid.
sounds like a military relationship.
She took the lid and the filters in the Brita, but she didn't take like the holster for the filter or the pitcher itself. She took half of
What
everything.
the
in house.
hell?
What? Did she literally cut the fridge in half?
Did
No,
she
she
take
That'd
the
have been
toilet?
impressive.
Did
That-
you take
that
the
would.
toilet seat, but not the whole toilet?
No, she took the toilet but left the toilet seat.
She turned the water off and took the plunger out.
Oh my god, that's some
took the
some
cushions
next
off my
level
couch.
pettiness. She was on point with that pettiness. Oh lord.
I
And
went
this, ladies and
Wow.
gentlemen,
She went in.
This is a prime
was-
example of how men are slow learners.
I was living in Iowa. I came up to North Dakota for a funeral. I went back, and she had cleared out half of everything in the house.
Oh
And
my.
I was like, okay.
Did you just go to
So-
flush the toilet and realize that
I
half
know
of
a
it was
guy
missing?
whose wife took half of everything. She even took the chandeliers hanging from the.
Oh
the
my
ceiling.
goodness. She went.
But she left him. But she left him the screws that like.
Oh my goodness.
She took the
Wow.
She took the plates off of the light switches. I'm like, what the hell?
So speaking of divorce, let's talk about relationships and heathenry.
Well, I'm out. I'm out. Bye.
Well, I plead the fifth.
Okay. I guess I'll start since I've had a pretty good experience with
Shut
it.
up, Jordan.
I know, I'm sorry. But yeah. Yeah, so I found it pretty interesting because I came into our relationship as a heathen basically, but it was when I was really starting out. But I've grown a lot since I've started, learned a lot definitely. Um, and she started out kind of agnostic, like she knew something was there, but she wasn't really like she didn't really know what she wanted to do. And I think the transformation was pretty neat. Like since our relationship has grown, we've been together for like 4 years now, and we've been engaged for one. And it's been pretty great to grow with a heathen partner, and it's great to know that I have someone to talk to things about. But I feel really bad for people that have like they're heathen, but they have a Christian wife, and they don't let them express their religion, which is kind of heartbreaking to me, to be quite honest, because it's just more repression of our religion.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I have two friends like that. I think where they're heathen, and their wives are just like, no, you can't do that. I'm just like, damn, dude, that's pretty crazy.
I have a heathen partner, but we also clash over different perspectives of heathenry.
Hmm.
So we fight about heathenry.
Well, no, you got to have the altar over here.
See, I'm lucky. My wife belongs to the religion that's the most persecuted in history. She's like, okay, I'll listen. And, I can't complain. So,
Mm-hmm.
I think communication's important.
Oh, it
Um,
definitely is.
although
with
my
any
partner
relationship.
is a heathen,
That's every
his ex
relationship.
is not. So the
Mhm.
kids are kind of in this middle ground where heathenry is not okay at the other house, and um, it's been brought up in
That must be really
several
hard.
times. Oh yeah, several times. Like yeah, yeah. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
we bought the kids, Mjolnirs. They've gotten thrown out. Like it's
Mm.
just yeah. So it's been hard to, I guess, for them to really come to an understanding either way. But I guess what they've done is just like you do in your house, we do in our house. Nobody interferes with anybody. But it's kind of, I could see where the kids can get confused.
Yeah.
Um,
I think one thing for
yeah.
the kids, someone brought up. I don't remember if it was Chaz. I think we lost Chaz actually. I think he got busy or disconnected. He was in here earlier, but I think it was Chaz that brought it up about how like his daughter is kind of figuring out that we're kind of a minority religion and we're not like a big religion. So like she'll talk about our religion outside of family and like at school and stuff, and no one will really understand anything about it. Which I feel like that'd be really weird for kids as well, with like how big Christianity is like talked about and like spread in schools.
Oh yeah, there's been certain symbols that were drawn and certain misunderstandings
Mm-hmm.
My
that I've had discussed with other heathen parents before. And it's like, well, you have to educate the educators. You have to
Yeah.
yeah.
you have to have that discussion with the teachers and the faculty, and don't let the school, push back on that because they're not allowed to.
Yeah,
No.
they need to understand. And that kind of brings me to like, didn't didn't you, Michael? Didn't you talk to a chat about taking leave for a certain like one of our holidays, and he just didn't believe you
Yeah,
because he didn't understand.
I'd put in leave for one of our events, and the unit that I was at basically took things that I had said previously, conversations and stuff, as that I was not a religious person. Um, so when I put in leave and said I'm taking leave for a religious event, they thought I was full of shit and that I was basically doing something shady. And they waited until the Friday, literally like the day before the event. I think it was a pub mood. It was on a Saturday, and they waited until the Friday to tell me that my leave uh, was not approved. And I asked them why, and they said, "Well, it seems really shady that you of all people would want to go to a religious event, and we're not really comfortable giving you leave um, if you can't give us a real reason why you want to take leave," which is total BS anyway, because you don't have to have a reason to take leave. It's earned
No.
leave. It's yours.
Yeah,
Wow.
that's I found that pretty. She was telling us about that today, and I found that super ridiculous. I did really want to talk about that because I feel like a lot of chaplains just don't understand our religion at all. Like,
Well,
because we don't even have.
yeah, well,
A
see, that's the
chaplain
thing.
yet, do
I
we?
called the chaplain about it, and the chaplain laughed it off at me.
Well,
He was like, that's
ooh.
not a thing. Oh, I'm sorry,
Well,
I'm not
see,
a freaking Baptist.
yeah, well, you know, the
Mm-hmm.
chaplains, like sometimes you need to respectfully remind them their job is not to understand our faith, their job is to accommodate us.
Yeah.
And I had this battle back in 1999 too. You know, and you have to be respectful, but you have to find a way to put them in their place and be like, "Look, sir or ma'am, you know, this is our religion. The VA recognizes it, the DoD recognizes it on some level, and I'm sorry you don't agree with it or you think it's a real thing, but it is. And do we need to make this an MEO issue?"
See, in my new unit, we've got a volunteer chaplain who is a local minister down there. Because those of you who don't know, I'm down in Hatteras, the Outer Banks. So it's like 3 hours for the chaplain to get down to us. But my first day down there, he pulled me aside and started talking to me and invited me to his church, which was nice. Thank you, but no thanks. And we got to talking about it, and he was like completely lost, had no idea what was going on.
Yeah, and I think it was
And
someone that stopped by today that was telling us like they were talking to their chaplain, and the chaplain was basically like, "Oh, so you're going to hell."
that was the woman that was in the Coast Guard.
Yeah, it was the Coast Guard woman
You're
that
going to hell. They can't
yeah,
do that.
Yeah.
exactly. That's what she said. She got she was basically just like, you can't do that. You can't
Yeah.
say that, and sat him down and have
Well,
a 45-minute conversation about why he was
now,
wrong and why he needed to fix
Hell's
himself
not a
about that.
horrible place for us.
I mean,
People
not for
forget
us, no, but he was talking in the
Yeah,
Christian sense because he was like a Southern
Oh, yeah.
Baptist.
Yeah, no, they can't say that.
Yeah, exactly. So she basically had to fix him on that, and apparently after their conversation, he was much more understanding.
See, and this guy that we've got down there, he's looked into it and then made contact with me and wanted to sit down and talk to me about it because he didn't understand. He's a volunteer. He's not an actual like Navy chaplain or Coast Guard or Army, whatever. He's just doing this for the hell of it. Or
Because
I
he
guess it would
cares.
be God's work for him, but but he didn't know anything about it. He took the time to look into it a little bit, found out that there were so many heathens in the military, and then came to me and talked to me about it. That's
cool.
all it takes.
Yeah,
Being
like
open-minded.
yeah. I mean, if you ever run into a chaplain that doesn't understand, like you should probably take the time and sit them down just for any future heathens and for yourself. Like, you need to sit them down and basically have them understand your point of views and like basically what you're gonna need to be accommodated.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not that hard. I mean, Wikipedia.
Yeah,
It's not that hard.
just Google it. Google heathenry or something, but don't click the one that says will acid truth soon be taken over by racists, because that pops up every time you put in heathen or acid truth for some ungodly reason. BuzzFeed,
Oh
I need you to
God.
go away. Please go away,
Heathenry for
BuzzFeed.
idiots.
Get out.
my.
That's
Vice,
a good one.
we need you to go away.
Vice or
Huffington
BuzzFeed, whoever
Post,
wrote that,
go away.
like all you people, just please stop.
Salon, go away.
Salon.
I
Stop
don't even know
calling
what
us
that is.
racists for no reason.
But they have a reason because racism.
Yeah,
Yes, racism.
unfortunately. I actually have a guy I served with. He's spending a long time over now, but because he violated his parole. He
Classy.
made some really bad choices after getting out. Never got the help that he
Doesn't
needed
happen,
for things.
unfortunately.
Yeah,
Mhm.
he never got the psych counseling he needed after Fallujah, and he didn't do well. But this guy, he got a hold of me after his first round in, and he goes, "Hey, I saw your tattoo. Are you part of the white supremacy movement?" And I had to explain it to him. He goes, "Wow, that seems like something I could get into." And I said, "Well, yeah, just stay away from the other crap." And next thing I know, he's back in, and I can't talk to him anymore. So,
Wow.
Oh boy.
because I got Toisaine and I've got the Volknut on my arm,
Mm-hmm.
and unfortunately, they're both tied supremacy crap inside. So
Yeah, unfortunately, I have a Vulcanute tattoo as well on my chest, and I've been at the gym. I think it's happened probably twice now, where people are like, "Hey, why do you have that tattoo?" And I'm like, "What do you mean?" And they're like, "What does it mean?" And I basically had to sit there and explain it to them. And once I've explained it to them, they've been like, "Oh, okay, thank you." But they're like, "I've seen it on people that are white supremacists," and I basically have to explain the whole background of that. But once you do explain it, as long as they're not super irrational, they basically understand. They're like, "Oh, that's really cool," like, "Thanks for explaining your religion and stuff." And I'm like, "Yeah, you're welcome." So
It's like,
you
is
just
it any of
gotta
your business?
explain. Not really, not at all. But like at the same time, it's good to explain it to people like that, just so in future cases when they see it on other heathens, and they're just like, "Oh, hey, I know what that means. I don't have to confront them about it and waste their time."
yeah,
I basically
It's
just do
like-
it to save other people's time.
It's like, why can't people just? I understand the curiosity and asking questions though, but the whole confrontational thing is getting it's getting to be too much.
It's
like,
really
just
annoying.
everybody just stay in your effing lane. If you have
Please.
questions, ask them. But this is like the confrontation culture, and it's getting out of freaking control.
It is.
Oh, I
I've
don't like
been
your political beliefs, so I'm gonna get you fired.
yeah.
yeah.
Unreal. Wow. I do
Yeah.
think that we need to put some information packets together or something for chaplains.
We actually
Just
had that Coast Guard lady take a few of our pamphlets for her chaplain, and I was pretty excited about that because I know someone's going to see those and be like, "Oh, neat."
I'd love to find out how to get a chaplain on the show and see if they can tell us, some of the
Yes.
challenges they've run into.
We definitely need to get a chaplain on here.
That would be really cool.
That would. I'll talk to some of my command and see what I can do.
Okay. Because I think that'd be really important to do. We'd probably get a lot of other chaplains listening in just because.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah.
Well, they're gonna pass it around to their chaplain buddies.
Exactly. So yeah, that would be great to get some exposure for chaplains on this, so they can see issues that we have.
If we can get a couple from each branch.
Oh
That
yeah,
would
I
be great.
can definitely get Navy.
I've got a one of my old NCOs is a command sergeant major. I can see if he can find somebody to get on and talk to us. I don't know if he will.
Yeah,
If anything,
We steal our chaplains from the Navy, so.
Even a first sergeant would be handy in this situation too.
Oh yeah.
I know a few E7s. You want me to see if one of them will get on?
All right.
So
we will
not
have
first
to
on, but-
discuss this.
Yes.
Speaking of guests, since we're covering guests, I want to just put out that Michael Goss from Project MMA will be on November 7th, talking about his program down there in Texas.
Yeah.
For disabled vets, combat vets. That's going to be a fun show. Just a heads up, there may be some language. He's kind of a DV, so.
It's a military heathen podcast. I think our military people can handle a little bit of language.
I know. I just know that there's some families out there that are probably letting their kids listen to some of our shows.
Oh, that's true.
And I just want to give a heads up when Mike Goss is on. There's probably going to be some language. He's a good guy. I had the honor of serving with him. He's an amazing man. I'd follow him to hell and back. But
he got a mouth on him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't have the agility to live bleep out or the mind reading abilities. I apologize.
Oh man, you have any idea how hard it is for me to keep it at least PG-13?
Yeah. We try around here. We try.
We all know, Carrie. We talk to you often enough.
Yeah. Alrighty. Well, we've. Oh, what were we gonna say?
I was gonna before we wrap this up, we do have a pub meet coming up on October 20th down there in Fayetteville, North Carolina.
Oh yes.
At the On After Bar and Grub. It's 3004 Bragg Boulevard or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
You can find the event posted on our main Facebook page. We're still looking to raise money for our 501c3. You can find the link to our GoFundMe at www.legacyoftear.com.
Welcome to Nate's Cooking ASMR.
Yeah.
It's the end of the show. This is the after party. We're gonna listen to Nate cook for half an hour. So if you just want to stay tuned for that, the next 30 minutes will be Nate cooking.
I gotta put this out. two things. One, if we have any heathens in North Dakota, I'd like you to reach out. North Dakota, Minnesota, see if we get together. And we have a young guy on the outreach group down in northern Texas.
Mm-hmm.
He's trying to enlist as an 18 X-ray. He's been busting his butt, and if anybody's down that area, if willing to give him a hand, do some training with him, it'd be great. So go ahead and hit me up.
And everyone that we've talked to,
contact information.
Pagan Pride Day today, definitely keep on listening to the podcast. We'll be doing them Saturdays, even on moot days. We'll probably have a mobile podcast going for the moot. I'll have to figure something out with that, but it's gonna happen. So be prepared for a little bit more drunken podcast, I'm sure.
Oh my God. Jordan, you and your girlfriend need to be ready for me to come up and just crash at your house unexpectedly.
Do it
sometime in the near future.
We're always
I'm just
ready.
gonna show up.
Don't talk about it. Be about it.
Yeah, be about it. The podcast room. I have Michael in it right now. You can ask him. We it's the setup.
This is seriously like a professional studio thing he's got going on here. I feel like Led Zeppelin's gonna be in the studio recording after we're done.
Yeah, he's in the garage that I've soundproofed. That's what we're doing afterwards. We're gonna go hit up Led Zeppelin, and while Nate does his 30-minute cooking ASMR.
Hey, I'm trying to get.
I thought you were gonna go start a boy band.
Yes, we're gonna do the garage boy band.
Well, we can't find
Heathen
any
boy
dishes
band.
when the kids are sleeping, and tonight I'm on here, so gotta get dishes put away.
Excuse me, Nate's dishwashing ASMR. Welcome to the show, ladies and gentlemen. Alrighty, well,
Wow.
there he goes. But
Yep.
Okay, so we're gonna wrap things up. Definitely make sure you check out our Facebook page. Check out the GoFundMe for the nonprofit. We're definitely trying to get that going. We have a website as well. All of this is linked in the description. I will also link was it a video or a thing? There was a thing that I had to link, but I forgot the name of it. I'll link that thing as well. It will be in the description. All of the things will be down there. Make sure to check out all of those things. And thanks for listening.
That thing.
No, it won't be that thing, but it will be another thing. There will be things.
Oh, don't put that thing in there.
There will be things related to heathenry down in the description. Heathen things, but not those things. Just other heathen things. Get your mind out of the trough.
I see what you did there.
Alrighty, good night, everybody.
Good night.
Night.